Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Ishan Hakim. Course title Semantics and Pragmatics. Program BS English Semester 6. Course code ENGL3126. After the lecture, students will be able to know about language, communication, the role of pragmatics in telecommunication, and different facts which are related to pragmatics, and Grei's cooperative principle and conversational implicators. Introduction. Language is the equipment of communication used by human beings. In other words, language is a system to transfer and to inform something through communication. It means that language is very important in life and is the power that is used as a mean of thinking, understanding, and expressing thoughts and feelings in the community. As the tool of communication, language plays a very important role in conversation as a social interaction instrument among people. Conversation is done to communicate something in which two or more participants are involved, namely speaker and listener. Speaker's utterance then is interpreted by the listener. How the listeners interpret the meaning is determined by speaker's expression. In communication activity, to understand each utterance, the listener must has good cooperation. Cooperation is a common background knowledge of participants. If the participant in the speech event does not understand the purpose of speech, it will be able to create a distorted interpretation, and the message conveyed by the speaker can't be received well. In case of communication, the language use may depend on the situation. In a situation, people may use direct utterances, but sometimes people use implicature strategies in their communication. The speakers use implicature strategies in communication with its context of situation. Implicature is the aspect of meaning that a speaker conveys, implies, or suggests without directly expressing. According to Grei's theory, the term implicit is not easily understood by the hearer because it has hidden meaning. Pragmatics is a branch of linguistics which focuses on study of language from the point of view of its users. This branch of linguistics gives so much importance to extra linguistic factors, the context of use, and the user's choice, which have to make in a communication event. Its purpose is to interpret language which uttered by the speaker to the hearer in the hope that both sides could create a good communication. According to Cruz, pragmatics is different from semantics, which deals with conventionalized meanings, while pragmatics is concerned with the aspects of information conveyed through language which are not encoded by generally accepted convention in linguistic forms in the widest sense. According to Bublitz and Norick, pragmatics is frequently conceptualized as the science of language use, the study of context-dependent meaning, and the study of speaker intended meaning, presupposing presupposing the existence of language user and context on the one hand, and context independent meaning on the other. Pragmatics deals with utterances, by which we mean specific events, the intentional acts of speakers at times and places, typically involving language. Logic and semantics traditionally deal with the properties of types of expressions and not with the properties that differ from token to token or use to use, or as we shall say, from utterance to utterance, and vary with the particular properties that differentiate them. Pragmatics is sometimes characterized as dealing with the effects of context. This is equivalent to saying it deals with utterances if one collectively refers to all the facts that can vary from utterance to utterance as context. One must be careful, however, for the term is often used with more limited meanings. The facts with which pragmatics deals are of various sorts, including facts about the objective facts of utterance, including who the speaker is, when the utterance occurred, and where. Facts about speaker's intention. On the near side, what language the speaker intends to be using, what meaning she intends to be using, whom she intends to refer to with various shared names, whether a pronoun is used demonstratively or anaphorically, and the like. On the far side, what she intends to achieve by saying what she does. Facts about beliefs of speaker and those to whom she speaks, and the conversation they are engaged in. What beliefs do they share? What is the focus of the conversation? What are they talking about, etc. Facts about relevant social institutions such as promising marriage ceremonies, courtroom procedures, and the like, which affect what a person accomplishes in or by saying what she does. In our everyday communication, we do not merely encode what we think in words, but our intentionality is also reflected through the linguistic choices that we make. Thus, in order to arrive at the intended message, it is not sufficient to draw its meaning from the language itself. We must also, and more importantly, work out what the sender wants to convey through it. When the literal meaning of what speakers say does not coincide with what they intend to communicate, listeners rely on a set of principles to infer indirect meaning. Given the pervasiveness of this inferencing process, which Grice coined as conversational implicature in our daily interaction, it is undeniable that this strategy is highly significant in interpreting and conveying message in conversation. Also, it has been claimed, according to Keenan, that the principles resorted to in the interpretation of implicatures can operate differently across societies, among different social groups and situations, and therefore pose an obstacle to cross-cultural communication. The cooperative principle. The basic idea behind the cooperative principle is that interlocutors are attempting to be cooperative in conversation. Grice's formulation of the cooperative principle is more detailed. I quote Grice here: "Make your conversational contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs by the accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged." Unquote. Cooperation of interlocutors. Cooperation of interlocutors means interlocutors consistently do make their utterances appropriate in context, and if they don't, it would be uncooperative. Grice's fundamental insight was that conversation can work only because both people are trying to be cooperative, means trying to make their contribution appropriate to the conversation at hand. Interlocutors are cooperative even in quarrel, even when one might assume the participants are in fact being utterly uncooperative, say in the course of bitter argument in which neither of the person wants the other to gain any ground. They are in fact being conversationally cooperative. They stick to the topic, they say interpretable things in a reasonably concise way, and they try to complete their thoughts while not giving distracting or irrelevant detail. Uncooperative interlocutors is impossible. A truly uncooperative interlocutor would be almost impossible to have a successful argument with. Such an individual would comment irrelevantly on the weather or failed to respond at all, perhaps choosing to read newspaper instead. In short, whether the conversation is a friendly or hostile, it is only because the participants are trying to be cooperative in that conversation, so that that conversation can proceed further. Moreover, as we see, it is only because each assumes that the other is being cooperative that they stand a choice of being able to accurately interpret each other's comments. Grice's cooperative principle and maxim. Simply put, Grice's maxim of conversation are a collection of maxims proposed by linguist Paul Grice to describe principles that people intuitively follow in order to guide their conversations, in order to make their communication efforts effective. There are four main maxims which revolve around the quantity, quality, and relevance of what people say, as well as on the manner in which they say it. According to Brown and Yule, the conversational implicature is derived from general principle of conversation plus number of maxims which speakers will normally obey. According to Yule, added an underlying assumption in most conversational exchange seems to be that the participants are cooperating each other. The general principle is called cooperative principle, which Grice in Brown and Yule mentioned in the following terms. I quote, Make your conversational contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs by the accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged. Unquote. Grice divides cooperative principle, as is stated earlier, into 4 basic maxims which are support to these principles. The maxim of quality. The maxim of quality means that the person should be true in his conversation, and the second is maxim of quantity means the person should be brief in the conversation, and number 3 that is the maxim of relation means the person should be relevant, and then there comes another maxim, the last one, the maxim of manner, which means be clear. Now we are going to talk about the maxim of quality. First of all, the maxim of quality means be true. The maxim of quality indicates that participants should not say what they believe to be false, and of course they may not say that for which they lack adequate evidence. Speaker and writer are assumed to say only the truth and have proof of what they are saying or writing. Moreover, by filling quality maxim in conversation means the speaker knows that the hearer expects him to honor the maxim. Without maxim of quality, the other maxim will be considered as less true. The maxim of quality implies that the speaker should, number 1, not say what he believes to be false. Number 2, not say that for which he lacks adequate evidence. According to Grice, where he uses the following analogy to illustrate the importance of this maxim, I quote, "I expect your contributions to be genuine and not spurious. If I need sugar as an ingredient in the cake you are assisting me to make, I do not expect you to hand me a salt. If I need a spoon, I do not expect a trick spoon made of rubber." Unquote. Ironically, this maxim, which makes telling a lie seems true, makes sense and possible. To get deeper understanding, here is an example. A. Do you know the speaker A? Do you know the capital city of Indonesia? B. Yes, I do. It is Jakarta. In the example above, B answers rightly what A needs to know about the capital of Indonesia. The B's answer is based on the truth and confidence that he has a strong knowledge that the capital of Indonesia is Jakarta. The maxim of quantity. Be brief. Maxim of quantity means that the participant's contribution in a conversation is as informative as it is required. According to Levinson, the participants should not contribute on saying something to the hearer more than it is required. Speaker is expected to give as much information as is necessary for the hearers to understand what they said. On the contrary, he is also hoped to give no more information than is necessary. Additionally, in a normal situation, the maximum of quantity means that the speaker says just enough, not too much nor too less information needed for the purpose of communication. The maximum of quantity implies that the speaker should make his contribution as informative as is required. Number 2, make his contribution more informative than is required. The example is, where is your mom, Teddy? The speaker A asking, where is your mom, Teddy? B. The speaker B, my mom is home. In the given example, B answers A's question with adequate statement with giving information contribution to the question. By answering that B's mom is in home, it will be informative as well as well understood by A. In another example, based on maximum of quantity, if someone asks you, how do I get from here to the library? Your expected answer should contain enough information for them to understand how to get to the library, but no more information than that. Based on this, the following is generally a reasonable response. I quote, now I am telling you the answer of the question, how do I get from here to the library? The reasonable answer of this question is, keep walking straight until you reach the intersection and then turn right. It is the answer which is very much reasonable for the question, how do I get from here to the library? Now conversely, the following response lacks important information and therefore violates the first maxim of quantity. It answers the same question, how do I get from here to the library? The response lacks important information and the response is, keep walking. On the other hand, the following response, the response which I am going to narrate in the coming seconds, the following response contains too much information and therefore violates the second maxim of quantity, which is, do not make your contribution more informative than is required. Now the response which I am going to narrate, going to tell you people, that is the information which is the answer of the questions, the question number 1 which I said earlier, told you earlier, how do I get from here to the library? This is the question, and the response is very much detailed and it is giving unnecessary information, so it is not appropriate response from the speaker. I quote, keep walking straight ahead, there will be some nice flowers on your right and some lovely new trees that they just planted a few months ago on your left. Anyway, once you reach big intersection, it's one of the biggest in the area, it took forever to build it, then you need to turn to your right. You can see that there is a lot of information given which was unnecessary, because just it was enough to say that keep walking until you reach the intersection and then turn right. It was the information which is quite appropriate. But in this conversation, but in this answer, the last answer, the interlocutor or the speaker gave the information, unnecessary information, that the flowers on the right and trees on the left, and keep there was a big intersection, biggest area, and this is all information which was unnecessary. So this type of information also violates the maxim. The maxim of relation, be relevant. Maxim of relation is used when the participants just convey in a relevant information. According to Levinson, the participant should not reply or say something that does not relevant from the other participant's dialogue. Speaker or writer is expected to organize their utterances in a relevant way according to the ongoing context, for the reason that the hearer or reader assumed that he did a relevant contribution for the goals of communication. The maxim of relevance recommended us not to say something which is not relevant. So speech must be kept relevant to the subject in a conversation. For example, if someone were to ask, "How was your day today?" an answer such as, "I went to the school," would break the maxim, as it is not relevant to the question asked. A correct reply would be, "My day went well, thanks." Another example, which was given by Leach. In many cases, the relevance of an answer needs to be inferred on the basis of information from the context, and the example which was given by Leach provides the following information. Where is my, the speaker A asks, "Where is my box of chocolates?" Speaker B, "It's in your room." This dialogue can be compared with another the same version of the dialogues. Speaker A, "Where is my box of chocolates?" B, "The children were in your room this morning." B's contribution in the first example abides by the maxim of relevance, since a direct and appropriate answer to the question is given. B's answer in the second example appears not to be relevant to the question at first sight. However, the second example could still be relevant to the speaker. A will assume that B knows where is the chocolates. In particular, the children may have eaten the chocolate, or that the children may know where the chocolate is, as they were in A's room. Another example is we can see that speaker A says, "Do you want to come to Risty's birthday tonight?" The response of speaker B, "Unfortunately, I have to prepare mathematics for the exam now." In the shown example, B's answer is relevant and appropriate with A's question. By answering such expression above, A can immediately understand that B cannot come with him to Rishti's birthday party since B has to study mathematics for tomorrow's exam. Then the answer must have relation with the questions to obey maxim of relevance. The maxim of manner, be clear. Maxim of manner is that the participants have to be perspicuous and also they have to avoid obscurity of expression and also avoid the ambiguity when reacted to the other participants. According to Levinson, the utterances of the participant produces are brief and must be orderly. The speaker or writer must avoid ambiguity or unclearness and be orderly in saying utterance so the hearer or the reader can follow what they meant. In short, the speaker is expected to say in brief, clear, and well-ordered utterance. In order to follow maxim of manner, the speaker should do following. Number 1, avoid obscurity of expression. Number 2, avoid ambiguity. Number 3, be brief. Number 4, be orderly. We have an example for the clarification of maxim of manner. After analyzing the example, we will be able to understand properly the maxim of manner. Speaker A: why did Mary leave the class earlier yesterday? Speaker B: she had an appointment to meet the dentist with her mom. The example above shows that B answers A's question clearly and briefly without making any obscurity expression that might be misunderstanding between them. Thus, by B's answer, A can know well the reason Mary left class earlier yesterday. Violation of maxims. Grice presents 4 ways in which maxims may be unfulfilled. These 4 ways are violation, opting out, being faced with a clash, and flouting. There may be a violation. Grice writes that a person may quietly and unostentatiously violate a maxim. If so, in some cases, he will be liable to mislead. The participants unable to disobey one of the maxim and violate other maxim, or they could possible to violate all of maxim. As Grice states that there are various ways of participant does not fulfill maxim. Number 1, the speaker may quietly and unostentatiously violate of maxim. If so, in some of the cases will be liable to mislead. The speaker may opt out from the operation both of the maxim and cooperative principle. He may say, indicate, or allow it to become plain that he is unwilling to cooperate in the way the maxim requires. Number 3, the speaker may be faced by a clash. They may be unable. The speaker may flout a maxim. Maxim is a rule that people must fulfill in a good conversation, but in communication, the speaker utterances usually do not always follow the rules. There may be violation of cooperative principle. We are going to discuss violation of each of the maxims. Number 1, violation of maxim of quality. The maxim of quality, which says that speakers are expected to be sincere in saying something that they believe correspond to the reality. This maxim can be violated if the speakers do not tell the truth, or the information is lack of evidence and something in the meaning is not literally true. Number 2, violation of maxim of quantity. According to WHO 2006, this maxim implies that a speaker should give neither too little information or too much information. People who give too little information risk their hearer not being able to identify what they are talking about because they are not explicit enough. Those who give more information than the hearer needs risk boring them. Number 3, violation of maxim of relevance. According to WHO, the next maxim of relevance, which says that the speakers are assumed to something that is relevant to what has been said before. This maxim is a little harder to find because it is hard to construct responses that must be interpreted as irrelevant. Violation of maxim of manner. Maxim of manner governs about clarity. Clarity means the quality of expressing ideas or thought in a clear way. This maxim violates either for humor or, as in case of puns and double entendres, where rival meanings are deliberately tolerated, or in order to establish solidarity of the speakers or exclude an overhearer from the conversation. Conclusion. In most situations, the assumption of cooperative is so pervasive that it can be stated as a cooperative principle of conversation and elaborated in 4 sub-principles called maxims. The cooperative principle is a principle of conversation stating that participants expect that each will make a conversation contribution such as is required at the stage in which it occurs by accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange.